Hey everybody, I'm going to go through and model for you how to do model example 1 for our activity 4.8. So I'm going to just walk you through the steps. So you can see here is the figure that we're going to be building. The first steps you need to do is to create the file in Onshape and then name it, which I'll go over with you in a second. But I'll also want to identify what the dimensions are here. So you can see these dimensions are listed on the document that's attached to the assignment in my MCPS classroom. And the first important dimensions you see here are the width dimensions. That is going to be from the left edge to the right edge. That is going to be 4. You're going to see the height dimension, which is going to be 1 here from top edge to this edge, and then 1.5 from here to here. So in total, that's going to be 2.5. And then the depth dimension, which will be from the front face to the back, which is going to be 2.5. Okay, and that's highlighted here. So those are the most important dimensions to get us started. And then we also going to need to determine which face or plane we're going to use. And we're going to build this front face here. Okay, that's going to be the first step we're going to take. All right, so let's go ahead into our Onshape, and we're going to go ahead and create a document. We're going to call this model sample 1 underscore your last name, and then click OK. Give that a second to open up. Once we're there, we're going to go ahead and select the plane. Now, obviously, we have our 3 default work planes, front, top, and right. I'm going to go ahead and hide the top, and I'm going to hide the right. And I'm just going to focus on the front work plane to start. So I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch. I'm going to select the front work plane, and then I'm going to change my view using my view cube to the front. So I'm focusing just on the front work plane. Okay, so again, now back to our drawing here. So because I'm focusing on the front work plane, I'm going to be sketching out this front part. Okay, so there are a couple different ways you could do this. We could use line by line, or we could draw a rectangle and then cut away some lines. And I think that's going to be the way I go ahead and do this. So I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to make that rectangle 4 inches wide and then 2.5 inches tall. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use my rectangle tool. I'm going to hit the drop down, and I'm going to do a center point rectangle. I'm going to come over to my work plane. I'm going to click on the center point, the 0, 0, the origin point. I'm going to drag open, not worrying about my dimensions right now. Once I've clicked the second time, it will create the plane and therefore the sketch of the rectangle. And then I'm going to go ahead and click dimension. So I'm going to click the top edge, which will be my width. Drag that, click once, drag up, click a second time, and now I'm going to type in 4 and hit enter. And then I'm going to go ahead and select the right edge, which is going to be my height, and that is going to be 2.5. Okay, so now I have the overall height and width of the figure. But now, if we notice on our figure, we have some cutout areas. Okay, so we have this area here on this side, this little cutout square here, and then one on the bottom of the front face. Okay, so I'm going to do these one at a time, and you'll see. So now the first thing we have to notice is, okay, well, what is the dimension of this cutout? So notice the height, very simple to see, is 1 inch. So I'm going to draw another rectangle, and I'm going to make it 1 inch tall. And so then what is the width? What is the distance from here? In this view here, you can't see that from on this side of it. So I have to go onto the other side, and notice in the back here, it has 1 inch. So I'm going to draw a 1 by 1 inch square in the top left corner and the top right corner because they're the exact same. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to now go back to my rectangle tool. I'm going to select corner rectangle this time. I'm going to click in my top left corner. I'm going to drag down, click once. I'm going to go to my top right corner, drag down, and again, click again. Again, not worrying about the dimensions at this point, is because I'm going to go ahead and dimension it now. So I'm going to click Dimension tool. And now I'm going to dimension the right edge and make that 1. Enter. I'm going to select the bottom edge and make that 1. Enter. Do the same thing on the other side. So now if you see, I have squares in the top right corner, but notice all the lines are black, okay? So I don't want this area to be part of my figure. So I want to remove these lines, okay? These lines here and this top edge and this left edge here. So how do I remove lines? I'm going to use the trim tool, which is the scissor tool here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what that allows me to do is cut edges, okay? So I'm going to select the top line. Now here's the trick. You might have to click the line twice. Okay, so I'm going to hover over the top edge. I'm going to click one time. It doesn't go away. So I got to click a second time. That's because I have two lines. There was a line on top of another line. So that's why I had to cut it away twice. And so now I'm going to click this edge. Oops, let me get it again. There we go. Okay, you might again have to click twice to do that. If it leaves this little dot in the corner, that's perfectly fine because that's still referencing the corner of my original rectangle. And again, I'm just going to click twice again in the other area. Control Z that. Cut over the wrong line. Let me go ahead and hit there. Okay, so now I have basically the two cutout areas here. But again, if I go back to my figure here, and notice I have a long rectangle at the bottom that's also cut out from my figure. And so again, I'm going to use the corner rectangle tool. And this time I'm going to make that rectangle with a 0.5 height, but it doesn't give me an overall length of that dimension. Instead, what it does is it measures it from each edge, the outside edge, 0.5. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, I could also just dimension it because I can do simple math. Ready? 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1. The overall is 4. And then we know 4 minus 1 is 3. So I know the overall length can be 3. So I could draw it that way, or I can just dimension from each outside edge. Okay. Either way would be correct. So I'm going to go back to my figure. I'm going to select corner rectangle again. This time, though, what you want to do is when you select corner rectangle, we're going to go down to the bottom edge of our figure, and I'm going to, again, hover over that. This time, I do not want to be in the corner, okay? I want to start this rectangle slightly inside the bottom left corner. So I'm going to click one time, drag up, and then kind of drag across like this, okay? Again, not worrying too much about the dimensions. So now I am going to dimension it. So again, as we know, from the top edge to the bottom of the figure, okay, is 0.5. Okay, that's what we saw in the drawing. And then from each outside edge is also 0.5. So I'm going to go ahead and dimension from the left edge to the right edge, drag down, make that 0.5. And then from the right edge to this edge. Okay. Oops, did not click that correctly. So let me escape that. Try that one more time. All right, there we go. Okay, so 0.5, enter. Okay, so now we know we have it in the right spot and it is the correct height. So now I know if it's in the right spot, it has the right length. And then I just have to cut away or trim away the bottom edge again. So I'm going to select the trim tool one more time. I'm going to select the bottom edge. I'm going to again have to click it twice. And now we have our profile. So if you're looking at our figure now, you can see the profile of the figure matches the one on the document. So I'm going to go ahead and select isometric view. Okay. And again, if I go back, notice my profile looks exactly the same as it does on my figure. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch or close the sketch. So I'm going to hit the green check mark, most important part. And now I'm ready to extrude it. Okay, so I'm going to extrude it and add the depth in. So again, just to review what our depth is, the depth is going to be from the front edge to the back edge. And what is that? That's going to be 2.5. So I'm going to go ahead and select extrude. Okay. I'm going to keep it new. It's going to be solid. All right. And now I'm going to select the profile that I drew. Okay. Now, when I do that, it defaults the extrusion forward from that face, and it also defaults it to a depth of 1 inch. Okay. But I want to keep my front face as is, and that means that I want to use it as my front. So I'm going to change the direction of the extrusion. I'm going to push it the other way. To do that, what you're going to do is click this little angle arrow next to blind, and that'll push it in the opposite direction. And then I'm going to set my depth distance to 2.5. And that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and select my green check mark again. Okay, so now I have all three dimensions placed in, the height, the width, and now the depth, and now my object is solid. Okay, the last part that I need to do is look at this figure here is I have this little ledge here. Okay, and so this ledge, if you notice it it's on the right side face. And so again, it has dimensions and a location. So it's going to be another corner rectangle, and we're going to make it 0.25 inches tall by 1.5 inches wide. Okay. And so I'm going to go back to my figure. Notice my front work plane is still visible. I no longer need that to be visible. So I'm just going to go over to my features bar and click on the little eye so it kind of hides the front work plane. But now I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to then go to the right side face. So I'm going to select this face here. Okay. I'm not selecting right here. Okay. I don't want you to be confused. We're not selecting right in the default work planes. I'm actually selecting the right side surface. And that's this rectangle here. So I'm going to click on that once. And that makes sure that my sketch that I'm going to draw on is on that surface. And you can see now I have sketch 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and select right side view on my view cube so I can focus on that rectangle. Zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to select corner rectangle tool again. Okay, and again, this time I'm going to free draw this rectangle kind of generally in this location. Make sure that you don't select any of the edges or it's not lined up with the middle, okay, the middle point. It just will make it harder to dimension later on because it might constrain it to those points. Okay, so just kind of free draw it right in the middle. And now we're going to go ahead and dimension. So we're going to go ahead and dimension from the bottom edge to the top and make that 0.25. And then the width is going to be 1.5. Okay, and don't worry if it made it a little bit longer. Okay, that's okay. And as long as we're going to basically place it by its location again. So that means we're going to place it based on the outside edges. So let's see what those dimensions are. From the left edge of the front face, this edge right here, okay, so if we're on the right side face, I'm just looking at the left edge here, it's going to be 0.5. And then from the horizontal edge right above the rectangle I drew, it's going to be 0.75. So I'm going to go ahead and making sure I still have dimensions selected. I'm going to select the left edge of my rectangle, the left edge of the figure, make that 0.5. Enter. And then from the top edge of the rectangle I drew to the horizontal edge right above it, okay, that's going to be 0.75. Okay, so now it's placed accurately, and so I'm good there. So I'm going to go ahead and select the green check mark. Okay, I'm going to go back to isometric view. Okay. And now, last but not least, I need to go ahead and extrude that rectangle. As you can see, it's sticking out from the right side. So how far does that come out? And that will come out 0.75 from that face out to that distance. So it's going to have a depth of 0.75. So now I'm going to go ahead and select extrude, select that rectangle, change my depth to 0.75, hit enter. Okay, and again, I'm just adding, this time I'm adding, okay? Notice it's adding. Why? Because I've already extruded it once, so now it's an addition to an extrusion I've already made. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter, okay, and then hit the green check mark. Okay, and just center it up on my screen, hit isometric view, it'll recenter it. And that is our figure. That is model example 1. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks very much.